Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Monorail Monday. It's back. Season 5, Episode 29. If you haven't seen any of the previous Monorail Mondays, there's playlists down below and a link. We got 4 seasons and 28 previous episodes talking about Disney, working at Disney, behind the scenes stories, operational stories, crazy guest stories, and things like that. So there's kind of like 2 things I thought I might talk about today. The first thing is something that has been in the news recently, and that is this story about a guy who was a former cast member and happened to steal $7,000 worth of costumes and props and such, and perhaps took more, and sold some of these items online for $29,000, something like that. A lot of money. Disney caught the guy. He's been arrested and charged, and it's not going to turn out well for him in jail. If you've been watching Monorail Monday for a while, you know that I talked about one time as the Mark IV monorails were being removed from the system, and they basically disassembled, and they were sort of in the Disney dump as they were being separated and pulled apart and stripped and everything like that. That me and a couple of my buddies had hatched this plan and sort of sketched out on a napkin our secret plan to go and hit the monorails late at night and just basically strip the thing ourselves and take anything we could pry off of the monorail. Of course, that was all fantasy. It didn't really happen. We never attempted to go back and strip everything. All we could see coming from this, really, after drawing up all the plans, is security's going to bust us. We're going to be arrested and fired, and it's not going to turn out. We're not only not going to have a door or a control arm or something like that, but we're going to be spending our life at a new themed institution, jail. So never did that. I think I probably do still have a monorail key or 2, but that's by accident. You forget, you shut down the monorail for the night. Sometimes you forget to turn it back in or whatever. I think nowadays Disney is even more conscious of people getting backstage and things than they were in my time. And certainly when I was there, you didn't have people as obsessive about trying to get back behind the scenes. People did. Sometimes you see people like seeing the cast members only door. They peek it open. They pull it open. They just kind of like peek. What's in there? You can't go back and go, oh, okay, I'm sorry. But now, especially in the day of vlogs, blogs, social media, everybody's got a camera and stuff. Everybody's got a brand they're promoting online. There are so many people who are probably desperate to get back and get some secret photos, secret video, or get some piece of Disney that they can take back with them. When in my day, if you had a camera down in the tunnels, security, they would be keeping a pretty good eye on you. You certainly didn't have a phone, an everyday phone that could be immediately a camera. You had to actually have a camera, and if we had one, they'd ask you, what are you doing down here? They want you to basically be in the tunnels when you're working and you're going to or from work. They don't want you, cast members, to just be wandering around in the tunnels when you're not actually working, especially if you're holding onto a camera or something like that. So I did get approached once or twice. Never took any pictures down there or anything like that, but certainly they were very aware of it. Now with a phone, you could just be acting like you're using a phone, and you can be taking pictures surreptitiously of what's going on. And certainly if you're a cast member and you know security, you know how things are going, where to go, how much security is around a particular area, it's easier for somebody who's been there and knows things to be able to pull something off like this, but it's not going to last forever. They will nail you at some point down the line, either with cameras. Cameras can be very unobtrusive, very small, very hidden. It's not necessarily the ones you can see, that are the ones you'll always be worried about. And there's all sorts of other ways they can do that. But at least in my time, one of the things they did to prevent it, besides having security occasionally walking around in the utilidors, when you left Magic Kingdom, if you're working, say, a Magic Kingdom attraction or something like that, the parking was out back behind the Monorail shop. So cast member parking was back behind Monorail shop and behind the railroad train. There was some offices there. So when you would get off of the bus from Magic Kingdom out to where the car is to get your car and go home, there was like a little exit funnel through, and basically you went past the security guard, and if you had a backpack or a bag or something like that that you took with you to work, security guard would make a quick inspection of your stuff to make sure you had not taken any Disney items. It was a little bit different then too, because nowadays basically cast members can take, I think it's up to 5 costumes with them, take them home, wash them. They can go shopping in a costume if they want. Not a Mickey Mouse costume, but if you work Tomorrowland and you just got off your shift, you get in your car, you go, you can stop at Taco Bell. But back in the 90s, before that, you would basically be terminated if you wore your costume off property. So nobody was taking costumes off property. It was much easier to spot if somebody was trying to sneak away with a costume. Nowadays, because they can take them home all the time, it's going to be a little harder to figure that stuff out. But they have the security checkpoint at cast parking. Now, where I was at, most of my Disney time was at the Transportation and Ticket Center, and there was no security whatsoever. There's also really not a lot of stuff to take at the Transportation and Ticket Center. I guess in the hotels you could theoretically take something, but you know, it wouldn't be anything big. Some of you may also have seen the Mesa Verde website, and if you haven't, you really should be checking it out. And it's about basically Gibson and Chief, these two guys who spent multiple days over multiple weeks, months, sneaking off of Horizon's ride at Epcot, hiding behind the scenes, getting pictures of all sorts of things of backstage. So if you're interested in Horizons or seeing way backstage all that stuff, that website is really, really cool, and it has so much information, and it's great. It's actually great that they did this because they documented so much of that attraction that otherwise would have been lost. So it's really cool they did that. But generally, people running around backstage is a huge safety issue. It's a problem for potential theft and things like that. It's funny because now you've had like props and costumes stolen. It was always amazing to me how many people wanted something from Disney, some official thing. People just were crazy to get something. Insurance package, you know, when you got open enrollment and you get a benefits package, I had people asking me for that. When you're done, they knew we were signing up for insurance, so when you're done signing up for your insurance, can I have your informational folder that talks about Disney benefits? Checklists for starting up the monorail, checklists for starting up the platform, pens that said Walt Disney World on them, name tags, just about anything you can think of that might have some Disney context that wasn't necessarily like a souvenir. It was maybe something we were doing with work. It could be something that we had on the monorail that we used, some piece of equipment. People wanted anything and everything to do with Disney. Name tags being the most popular. Can I buy your name tag? Can I buy your 5-year pin? People wanted to buy that stuff constantly, all the time. So the other thing I was going to talk about a little bit was lawsuits and Disney. And this is sort of another legal things in Disney. It's fairly commonly known that Disney is getting sued all the time by guests for different things. I slipped, I fell, something hit me, I was injured, or whatever it is. That kind of stuff happens all the time, and there's always witness statements that get filled out by cast members, and I certainly participated in at least 2 different events where I had to not only fill out witness statements, but I filled many more out than that. But where somebody actually did file a lawsuit, an initial lawsuit, and had to go through a deposition with supervisors from our department, legal counsel, other higher members of the company, managers, transportation managers, things like that. And so it's pretty common that this is happening. And at least the one I remember the most was at open doors to the monorail at the transportation center on the resort side. Opened the unload doors. People got off. Nobody was getting on. People cleared the platform. So I hit the doors to close, and this four seniors sort of start to get out, and then they see the doors are closing, and they put their arms out, and then they started to go back in, then they started to go back out again, and they finally did exit, but you know, they tried to put their arms out. They clearly were not sure if they wanted to be on or off. Once you hit those doors to cycle close, they are going to attempt to close. If you put your hand out, you know, they will pop back open and try and close again until you're clear and they can finish their cycle. So these folks tried to put their arms in the way when they tried to exit the last second, and it hit them a couple of times. I hit the door open, but you know, it takes a few seconds for that to actually happen. So I checked these people, said they were fine. They, we're okay, we're okay. They ended up getting off there, and that was the end of that. Until a few days later, when I got called in the office and said, there's this older group of seniors, 4 seniors that are saying they got hit in the door and nobody cared and they're injured and things like that. So I had to give a statement then, and a couple weeks later we had a deposition, and they talked about what happens, what's my story, what is their story. Got to talk with some of either my supervisors, the legal people, and things like that. And my case actually did not go to trial. They actually ended up dismissing it. It was no big deal. But I went through this whole process of going through the deposition and everything. And eventually, in one of my trainings, one of the I think it was like lead/trainer training. One of the things they talked about was lawsuits, and they'd had things happen like people spilling drinks on stairs at Columbia House, and then somebody like just dramatically falls down and starts screaming they slipped and fell, and it's eventually determined that they poured the drink themselves and then fell. One of the most famous and favorite ones that I know of was a guest who had claimed to have tripped on a bunch of boxes that were left out in the middle of the walkway in Liberty Square. Guest had tripped and fallen, and it was extreme negligence on Disney's part, big lawsuit. The box that she tripped on that was out in the middle of the walkway was the pillory, or the stocks that are out in the middle of the Liberty Square. So that giant platform, those were what she said were boxes that she tripped over that had been negligently left out there. And as they had investigated that a little bit further, it was determined, well, this woman had filed, she was a suit regular. It was basically, she was in the business of filing lawsuits, and had filed multiple against Disney. She had filed multiple lawsuits against public for falls and trips, and they basically, told the lawyer to stick it, to pay the case off than to actually fight it or try and prove it or whatever. So sometimes they have actually done that. When I was going through my deposition, they were talking about lawsuits involving the old Chinese junk from the Polynesian. There was a big lawsuit about that at one time. The doors, regular with the monorails, there were multiple ones that happened with the Mark 6 monorails from the doors cycling, as well as the Mark 4 doors, which of course were all manual. Everybody had to go. If you've been going to Disney a long time, you remember the slam, 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 slam of those doors on the Mark 4. There were a number of cases where people did get a finger or a hand or something like that pinched in the doors or smushed in the doors. So I hope you enjoyed a little discussion here about the theft and security at Disney in relation to that kind of thing, as well as just a little peek at lawsuits and people thinking about suing Disney. Next week, I've got some stuff from one of my training classes, so I thought we'd talk a little bit about that, what it's like to go through a training class for trainers. And that's basically teaching you how to be a trainer at Walt Disney World, how to train new hires, new people who are at Disney coming in. It deals with a lot of general Disney stuff as well as some specific area-specific stuff. But it was mostly about learning to train new people, how to train them in our ways and expectations and things like that. So we hope you like this. More to come. I think we still have a special guest coming up later this season for Monorail Monday. Remember, kids, have a good time all of the time.